Hi, everybody. I want to welcome you to our Sunday Sip and Sew class with Kathy Lawrence. Welcome, everybody. Tonight, we're going to talk about the Taco Tote, which is an amazing little tote bag. And I'm just going to turn it over to Kathy. Kathy, which screen would you like me to blow up? Do we have more than one tonight or just
I've just got the one.
Okay, I'm going to blow you up.
Just using the one tonight. Hi, everybody. It's been a while. Good to see you all back. And thank you so much for spending part of your Sunday with us. I appreciate it. And we really appreciate all you do, all your crafting and sewing. It's really appreciated. This is a special design bag that was requested by one of our partner charities, the East River Foster Parent Network in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. They specifically requested a certain size. And so while spending too many late nights on Pinterest, you know how that is, came across an idea that somebody was doing with a burrito tote bag. But of course, we can't call it burrito. So we designed a taco tote. And what the East River Foster Parent Network is going to use these for is they're going to be welcome bags for their foster children. And they're going to fill them with like pajamas, a new blanket, underwear, hygiene kit. And they're for children ages 2 through 8. So it's going to be fun sewing for the little ones. Now the size of the tote is going to be approximately 16 by 16 when it's done. And we've redesigned the handles to make them more kid friendly. And they're going to be about 1 inch wide when they're done. So I'm going to be showing you how to make this bag using cotton prints, like your cotton quilting prints, polyester cotton prints, a very lightweight decorator fabrics or decorator type material, lightweight poplins, but don't get too heavy with this. The straps are going to be secure enough to hold everything that they have in it. And so now I'm going to turn my camera down and we'll start looking at how we're going to assemble this together. So give me a second here to get her dialed in. Now there's not going to be any special equipment needed for this besides your sewing machine, obviously, thread in your fabrics. But you will need to have, all right, come here. There we go. If at any time that I go off screen or you can't hear me or see me or whatever, just give me a yell because I'm just working with the one monitor tonight. So for this project, you will need a tape measure. You'll need something to mark your fabric with. And I'm really hooked onto these Madam Sew little chalk markers with a little wheel on the bottom. And that's the erasable chalk. And also I like the little Madam Sew. These are the heat pens that once you write with them and put an iron on it, the iron will make the ink line go away. Also be nice if you have handy, maybe a little sewing gauge. And those of you who have a rotary cutter, this is a good project for your rotary cutter, but it's not necessary. You can use just your regular scissors. Now, if you want to, Tiffany's going to drop a link in today's chat that will show the script, and it has all the info in it that you need. It has the links to our website. It also has the links to where when you're done, you can tally your donations. You can print out the care slip and it'll have the address of where to send these when you're done. So these tote bags will be shipped directly to the East River Foster Parent Network in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So fabric wise, this is going to be fun for the kids. What you're going to need is a piece of fabric for the outside that's 15¼ inches high by 34 inches wide for the outside of the tote, which is this blue flowers. And how this is cut out and constructed is that we just have one side seam and the fabric goes around and there's no side seam over here, so it goes quick. You'll also need that same amount of material, 15¼ high by 34 inches wide for the contrast inside. And for the contrasting top cuff, this is 8 inches by 34 inches wide. And then the straps are 2 pieces, 4 inches wide by 27 inches long. And all of these measurements are on that sheet. So don't worry if you didn't get didn't get them written down. So the first thing that you need to do is we're going to prepare the straps. And I'm going to just choose this little piece here to show you to hurry things along. This is the 4-inch wide piece of material that's for the straps. So take it and fold it in half and press it so you have a crease down here. Open it up again and then fold each of these outer edges to the inside, press it again, and then fold it again. So it's like making a big piece of double fold bias tape because you fold in once, then fold again, and that's your double fold. So now you have the 4 layers, 1 inch wide, that you'll go ahead and you'll top stitch this on the sewing machine, and you'll top stitch along the edge. Sometimes people call it edge stitching, either edge stitch or 1/4 inch away, top stitch both of the long edges of your straps and do that for both straps. Now, before we set these aside, I want you to do something and take both of them and line them up together and just check to see if both of them are the same length. Because sometimes you can get like me and get one a little bit longer than the other. And if it is, that's okay. Just snip it so you have both of these straps the same length. And then we'll just set these aside until we're ready for them. Now the next part that we're going to do is this is going to be the top contrasting cuff. And this is the piece that's 8 inches wide. And for this piece, there's a definite right side and a wrong side. I'm going to fold it with wrong sides together. So I'm looking at the right side and then press it down so I have a crease along the top here. So this is how I prepare the cuff, then fold that up and set it aside. Now we're going to mark the bag next to put the straps on it. And as I was making some of these this afternoon, the original instructions say just to work with the outside of this bag. And this bag we're making is going to be a little spaceman bag. Here's my right side, here's my wrong side. And the original instructions say just do 1 layer at a time. But really, what you can do, and what I've done with this one, is I put the wrong sides of these two together. See, I've marked the wrong side of this solid with an X. So I put the wrong sides together, and now I'm going to treat this as one piece of fabric. All right, now here's where your tape measure comes in. We need to measure out where we're going to put the straps. And I've redone this a little bit differently from the original instructions too, because I had some feedback. And so I do listen to what you guys tell me. You might not think I do, but I do. And I do appreciate all of the feedback you give me. If something is not clear, or if you think I could do it in a different way, I don't mind at all. I do want you to get a hold of me and tell me about things. Anyway, across the top of the bag, I'm taking this tape measure and I'm just going to clip it down. And clip it once here in the middle. The one thing that you are going to want to check is you're going to want to make sure that this fabric measures 34 inches. Okay, so this is a little bit different from the burrito pillowcases because those, they trim off when they're done. But on the taco tilt, we're starting right out the gate with the right measurements. So here, come down, clip this. And so we've got our 34-inch wide piece of material clipped with a tape measure. And so the placements that you're going to place the straps is also on this instruction sheet. And with the tape measure starting at 0, you're going to put a pin at the 5-inch, the 12-inch, and that's for the one side of the bag, because remember, we don't have a seam on the one side of the bag. So here's where the first strap's going to go. And then move on down and put a pin for the straps at the 22 and at the 29. And once we've got those, we can get rid of our tape measure and put our straps on. Now, no matter how many times I sew a strap, I always end up with a pretty side and a not so pretty side. I don't know what it is. So I'm looking at a real pretty side that I'm going to call the right side. And so I'm taking the right side of the strap and setting it here at this mark on the material. This is the first placement of the strap. Now I'm going to put the strap up about a 1/4 inch above the fabric, just so that when I sew that in, there's just going to be a little bit more, which makes the strap a little bit more secure, which is okay. And then here, straighten out your strap. Don't put any twist in it, and come around and put the other right side of the strap over here, repeating what you just did, about a 1/4 inch up. Now we're going to do that for the other side too. Find your pretty side. Here's the pretty side, so it's the right side. It's going to go on this pin. Making this straight, come around. We do it, finishing out the straps. Now there's one thing that I've learned that's not too hard to do, is I like to check this to see how near or how far I am off on those straps, because you'll want to have this side fairly close to this side. You don't want one set of straps over here and another set of straps over here. You want it so it can be carried comfortably. So I've got this matched up and it's okay. I think I'm going to move this one just a little bit because you see it's about a 1/2 inch off. So I'm going to move that one over and repin it. And then I've got them lined up. And that's all that I was checking for with that. So, pin those down good. Make sure that they're nice and straight up and down. And then you know what? I think it's time to start making a taco. Yep, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to start out with the cuff and put the cuff right sides up, open. Okay, we can tell it's open because see, here's that seam, that not the seam, but here's the halfway mark that I pressed. So I have the right sides of the cuff open. And if you went ahead and put your lining inside of your outside of the fabric, I know inside, outside lining, outside, wrong, right. It's all kind of confusing, but here's our right side of the bag with our little spacemen. And I had the lining with the outside of the bag and treating them as one. So this is actually the right side of the lining. Look at us here. And we've got wrong sides together here. So now all we need to do, since we've got this hooked up together with the straps, is put this up to the top. And here's where you're going to get a lot of your clips, because you don't want all of this to be shifting. And we're just going to start clipping this together.
Kathy, someone asked if that pin was in the middle.
Is it in the middle? Yes.
Thank you.
Does it not look like it?
No, they just wanted to clarify. Thank you.
Yes, and if I'm in a little bit, I didn't want to take too much time, but normally I put 2 pins on here to secure that strap so it doesn't shift when I'm sewing. But right now, since I'm not actually going to be sewing over this one, I was just using 1 pin, but I'm pinning the middle of this strap to the middle of the mark of the pin where we marked our 5, 12, 22, and 29. Okay. So now that we've got that, we're putting these bag pieces on top of the cuff and just clipping them. We're going to come back and clip it better, but right now I'm just going to put some couple of clips. And you see what I'm trying to do is trying to keep all of those layers together right on the up on the outside of here on the cut edge, and making sure that none of those inner levels are sliding down, because all of these layers of material are going to be needed to be sewn together to make your turning successful. So take your time when you're doing this. Make sure that you've got all your layers right up to the top. And I got black and orange. I'm ready for Halloween, aren't I? That one missed. Okay. And so if you come out with maybe your cuff wider than what the bag is, we will catch that after we've turned the taco tote. So don't worry about that. I know I have the correct measurement of the width on my spaceman fabric because we just measured that when we did the straps. Okay, now it's time to roll the taco. So people, if you do this, people have different methods on this. And if you do any of the burrito pillowcases, it's the same idea, except we've got these handles in the way. So I just kind of fold this up over that handle, and then I just kind of start turning and rolling the insides and outside of the bag, and pull down your cuff. And now we're going to take the cuff and fold it over and match it back up to the top. And now come in and start pinning all of these layers together. So when you are done with the rolling of the taco, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of cuff and bag that you are going to want to sew together. And then make sure that this inside portion here, that is the body of the bag, make sure that's down, get that down and away from your seam line, because you don't want to stitch over that. So kind of give it one of these and get it shook down in there, and continue pinning all of this. Use extra pins, use extra clips, use whatever you need, because this is important. If this step goes wrong, say that you miss something or sew something different, it's going to be really hard to try to come back and undo it. So this step is important, but I know you guys, and I know you'll do it just fine. Make sure that you've got all those layers pinned. Now, go ahead. When you've got these all pinned up on your sewing machine, then come in about 3/8 of an inch and stitch all these layers together. And when you come to a spot where you have a strap, what I would do is I'd come across it, go back, and then come across it again. I would go over it a couple times, just because a strap is a stress point, and we want to make sure that these don't pull out. So stitch all of this going across our straps, pull your clips, pull your pins. And then when you're done with that, there's your taco. And I know it's tempting to come and try to clip these parts away that are the straps, but I leave those in there because that extra material in there is just kind of like an insurance that in case the strap gets really tugged, it's not going to fray out and come out. So I just leave that as it is. It really hasn't hurt anything. But here's your big reveal. And you know, we have so much fun when we do this with the burrito pillowcases. The easiest way to start this is to turn this leading edge back like you're making a cuff. Okay, can you see that? Turn that leading edge back like you're making a cuff, and then grab the inside of the bag and just start pulling it outside. Turn it over, just keep rolling it over and pulling until you get the inside of that bag turned outside. And this was a little tricky step for us to design it, because with all this fabric, we had to make sure that that cuff wasn't too narrow, that you wouldn't be successful, but you will be. Pull it out, and then drum roll, please. There is your taco tote. Okay, we've got the top band, we've got the straps, we have the outside of the fabric looking at us, and it's even right side up, so I didn't put it upside down. And we've got the lining of the bag with the right sides where they're supposed to be on the lining. Okay, so success. Couple things. Now, if you all take the time and cut these out exactly, then you really won't have to worry too much about lining up the bag and trimming off the excess. But you can see on my bag that I do have a little bit extra up here on the band. So what you're going to want to do is find a nice wide spot on your cutting table or on your kitchen table or wherever you work and get everything kind of smoothed out. And what you're doing is making sure that you've got the front and the back together on the bag and that you've got this cuff pulled up so nothing's slacked. And now to take care of these edges, I made that band a little bit too wide up there. So this would be a good place if you had a rotary cutter to go ahead and cut them off. But if you don't have a rotary cutter, oops, go ahead and line them up. And with a pen or a marker, go ahead and mark where you're going to need the trim. And then come back with your scissors and trim it off because we want both of these side edges to be even. So there's one. Make sure I don't cut my straps. That'd be something, wouldn't it? I need a little bit more space here. So my bag's looking pretty good. I have the one side trimmed, but I do see here on the other side that it's really I've really got a little bit of trimming off to do here. So again, I could get my rotary cutter out, but it's just as easy to show you what we're doing is if I just come and square up the side. And I know the front of that bag is the exact measurements that I need. So I'm not going to be trimming too much off except the end of this band. Okay. Now on the straps, these straps, you just push them up towards the top. Make sure this is all nice and smoothed up and pull your straps up. Don't pull them real tight because you'll get a wrinkle going on here and that's not attractive. But pull them up and try to make sure that they're fairly straight. You can either eyeball that or you can take your square edge or your ruler and place one of your, oh yeah, we got a shining going on right there, don't we? Well, I hope you can see I've lined up the top edge of the bag with one of the lines on the ruler, and I've lined up one of the straps on the 90-degree line on the same ruler. So I'm making sure that this strap is as good as I can get it, being up and down straight. And if you can do that by eyeballing it, that's wonderful. But if you need a little bit of help, that's okay too. So repeat that for all 4 of your straps. Okay, now in preparation for sewing the bag together, as long as we know that we've got these edges that match, I think it's just as easy. Put a few clips in here to hold them together while we're working. Okay, isn't that butterfly cute? That's a little butterfly collector's bag right there. And okay, I'm going to switch to the next one that I've got done. Paw Patrol. There we go. And so this bag, I've already sewn 3 of the straps on. And it really is up to you with how you kind of want to finish these. I just stitched over this top stitching, stitched down, across, up and over. Now you can be fancy. You can put a big X in the middle of here, or you can make a little X up on the top, or you can stitch around a couple of times, whatever you're comfortable with. All fabrics are different, all machines are different. So trust your judgment on what you need to do, but get your straps sewn on with a little bit of reinforcement here, and they're going to be just fine. Now at this point too, if you wish, this is optional, you could top stitch along this seam of the bag all the way across, and you can top stitch here. I usually don't, but it doesn't mean that you don't have to or don't want to. Whatever you feel like is fine. So I'm going to see now, I'm going to get my machine put over here. And I'm going to show you how I stitch this strap down. Oh, or maybe not. Intermission music. It got stuck back there. I pulled it out of the wall. You can't beat live TV, can you? Now it's got to wait for it to do its little dance here. You see, when I was breaking the vacuum, this is where I was. So apparently I've got gremlins in more than one place. Okay. Good. All right. I knew you were going to do that. Are you done? Okay. When I sew the strap on, it really doesn't matter exactly where you're going to start or where you end. Probably can't see that real well, but we're going to start down at the bottom. I'm going to stitch across the bottom until I hit that top stitching line. With my needle down, press or foot up, we're going to pivot and then press your foot down. Coming up the other side, we're just going to follow that top stitching that we did earlier. And when I get to the top, I'm going to stop with my needle down. We're going to pivot, press your foot down, and I think I'm going to go across, hit the reverse, go back, and then come forward again, stop, pivot, and sew back to the start. And that's all you need to do to get those handles sewn onto the bag. If you want to make little X's or other reinforcements on there, that's fine too. Okay. Now, don't go anywhere. Now, Pup Patrol, he's all done except for doing the French seams. And so a French seam is easy. If you've done the pillowcases, you've done them. A French seam is just 3 steps. The first step is you're going to put what I'm calling the wrong side of the bags together. So you're looking at the outside of your bag. Put the wrong side of the bag together. You've got the right side looking at you. And match up everything. Flip it down. And this time you're matching 4 pieces of material. The front, the lining, the front. So you're clipping 4 pieces of material, and you want to get those about as evened up as you can, because it makes a difference when you're sewing and then clipping and then doing the second stitch. So take your time, get those leveled out, and you're going to pin or clip down the side of the bag and across the bottom of the bag. Okay. And oh yeah, here's my fave. Psychedelic dogs. There they are. Now on this bag, I've already stitched the 1/2 inch seam along the side and the bottom. And what you're going to do next is come back with your scissors This is step 2. Come back with the scissors and trim the seam allowance down to about 1/8 of an inch. So you want to trim close to where you originally stitched, but you want to be careful and not stitch through those stitches. Now, I've already done part of this bag. So the second step was to trim that off. And the third step is to turn your bag to where you're looking at the inside of it. And I've already sewed this. But this seam, you want to get that rolled out right to the edge. And I'll show you right here. I still need to sew this bottom here, so I will show you on the bottom. I'm getting ahead of myself. So this bottom, take your fingers, wet them down if you need them in a little dish of water, and roll this between your fingers. Roll that seam to where you feel it right on the outside. I don't know how else to explain it, but just roll it between your fingers until you can get that material scooted down and have the right side. Okay. Right side's looking at you there. And if you need to, get yourself a poker, a turner, chopstick, pencil. Not anything too sharp. We don't want to put a hole in our bag. And push out that corner so you can work with it. And I'm clipping that. So this is the beginning of step 3, which is sewing the seam again to encase those raw edges that we had from step 2. So I'm going to finish sewing off the bottom of this seam. And you'll be able to feel with your fingers where that seam allowance is in here. And that way you can kind of guide yourself that you want to sew on the other side of it, because you don't want that raw edge peeking out when we turn our bag. So this is the third step in doing a French seam. It sounds fancy, but it's easy. You guys got this. So basically the bag is done, except for one last thing. Now I suppose we could stop here if we wanted to, because we do have the bag. Bag is 16 by 16. We've got no exposed seams. So when they're putting things in and out of the bag, it keeps it nice. But yet we have the raw edges encased in this French seam. And we've got our straps sewn down. But there's one final step that I kind of like to do to the bags, and that's putting a corner gusset on them, which will give the bag a little bit of width and depth. So come back on the inside of your bag. And the easiest way I know how to explain this is, see, here's your side seam of the bag. Stick your arm all the way down there, and here's your fingers down here. Widen out your fingers so you're widening out this point. And then what you want to do is match up the side of the bag with the bottom of the tote. Let me get him snapped out. Okay, so you can feel with your fingers if you get that bottom seam lined up with the side seam. And then lay that out flat. Now here's where a little sewing gauge is going to help you. You want to set it at 1 3/4 inches and measure from the tip of that corner you just made 1 3/4. And this is the heat erasable marking pen. I'm going to measure in 1 3/4 and make a mark. And this is going to be my sewing line for the corner. I can eyeball that, but you can also take some kind of a ruler or a straight edge and draw that so you've got a nice clean line across. Repeat this for both sides. And it wouldn't hurt if I pin that. I think I'm so smart by not pinning it. And now we're just going to stitch across this point. And when you start the seam, do a back tack and then come forward again. Well, I got gremlins in here tonight. Yeah, my underside thread was caught. I thought we'd only have gremlins on Halloween, but apparently they're come early to my house. So there is my sewn across gusset, 1 3/4. Yeah, that's what happened. I had my bobbin thread was caught, but he's still sewed up real nice. And I know some of you are going to want to just cut this off, but that leaves a raw edge. And so I'm perfectly fine if you were just take this corner that you've just sewn. Oops, let me come down here so you can see me. Take this corner that you've just sewn. You've got your hand in there again. Okay. And then just push that corner towards the bottom and pin it. Because what I'll do is I'll just tack that down and it'll be just fine to leave it tacked. Okay, so here's our corner that we stitched. See that box pleat over here on the other side. This is the bottom seam of your bag. So just fold your corner over. Match up these two lines. And I'm just going to come back with the machine and tack it just with a tacking stitch. And then just leave it. Okay, so just tack that down and just leave it. So now we've got, when we have that done, we have ourselves a nice corner that gives the bag some depth. Okay. Now, any questions from you guys? I think I'm going to give Tiffany a second here to shut off the recording, and then we'll chat a little bit about what you've got questions on.
That looks really thick on what you at final on tacking, as far as how many is that going to be hard on a machine?
No, I just didn't do it for time's sake, but I can. Here, let me show you. I always conscious about how much time I'm taking, and I thought I was taking too long. But no, it's not, because you can, if your machine is giving you fits for tacking through this, then you can just take thread, hand and thread, and then just tack these points together. Okay. But I'm actually going to come in and I'm not going to tack it right on that fat seam. I'm going to tack it right next to it. Okay, can you see? Yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to tack it on this big fat seam. I'm going to come in right next to it and do it. Let's see, where am I at? Here we go. I don't know if you can see on my machine, but I've got that laid down flat, and I'm just going to come up close to it, set my machine for a zigzag, Actually, I like my zigzag to go the other way. So it's more monkey shines getting it set up than it is doing it. But here I'm going to have my zigzag going the same length as the seam. So I'm going to set my zigzag and then come back and override my length to where it's 0. And then just go 5 or 6 times of attack. And then that's it. That's all you do. So it's more monkey shines, just trying to get it positioned underneath there. And you don't have to sew on top of that big thick seam, okay? And so now on the outside or the right side of the bag, I'm trying to find where my stitches are. There's a little tiny tack right there underneath my finger. You can see where the thread hasn't been clipped yet. So that's all you'll see on the bottom of the bag. But that's all that takes. What you're just trying to do is just get that just to lay down so it's not flapping around. So you don't need to do a big production down there, just get a little tap. Okay, can you see?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kathy.
That's
Yeah.
helpful. Thank you.
All right, sorry I didn't explain that better. So thanks for asking.
No, that's great. All right. I want to thank Kathy for that amazing class. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the recording and then we'll open it up for continued questions. Thank you so much, Kathy. That is incredible. It is a beautiful bag. It looks so simple and easy to do and super fast. So I think it's
Yeah.
a super great and wonderful project. And I've dropped the links. Everything is on the website and I dropped the link in the chat to the project page. So thank you so much as always for that. Much appreciated.
And I knew I was going to forget something, but this is on your sheet, your overview pattern sheet. When you're picking out the material, have fun for the kids, do colorful things. If you don't have fun prints, you can even do like a red, blue, yellow, green, maybe primary colors and mix them up. But we have had a request specifically from the East River Foster Parent Network to be mindful about what your pattern choices are. Obviously, these are for little kids, so avoid images such as drugs, alcohol, weapons, stay away from religious symbols or holidays. Day of the Dead stuff. These are little kids, make it fun for them. They also have a special request to not use fabric with the words of mommy, daddy, or family, because these are foster parent situation. So we want to keep it light and fun for the kids.
So
another thing is, I'm not sure if they're going to be using them together, but this same partner charity has also asked for burrito pillowcases. So I don't know if they're doing that with the bags, but if you have extra fabric, make a pillowcase too.
Throw in a pillowcase too. The itty bitties won't get pillowcases, but the bag's going to the older because we have two different groups of kids. Like the 2 to 5-year-olds don't get pillowcases, but the 5 to 8-year-olds will. So absolutely. So yeah, awesome. All right, I'm gonna stop the recording and then we'll take questions. Thanks so much, Kathy.